Hi, I'm Chef Shellie from Kitchencue. We have partnered with Grant Family Farms to bring you some skills of cooking so that you can be a successful cook and thoroughly enjoy your CSA shares. So we can saute vegetables, but we can also saute fruits. And I am so excited that I received beautiful sour cherries in my CSA box. I make this delicious barbecue sauce with sour cherries and a little pinot noir. The sour cherries really help to balance out all of that heavy tomatoey stuff that you encounter when you make a barbecue sauce. This barbecue sauce is phenomenal on sauteed chicken or grilled chicken or pork. But today we're going to slather it on a goose that we got from Grant Family Farms. So let's get cooking. All right, so we're still going to use our same saute technique. We're going to be using a soup pot though, because we're going to be adding a lot of liquid, and it's a little bit easier to work with in this pot as opposed to the saute pan when the liquid is sloshing around. But the same technique. So we heat our pan to medium, and then we add a little bit of oil, thin layer of oil in the bottom of the pan. We wait for that to get hot, and then we add in our chopped spring onions and a pinch of salt. We always want to season as we go so we get great flavor. And the salt helps soften the onions a little bit faster. So we stir that around, and we'll let the onions cook until they're tender and translucent. Now we're going to add in some ginger and some garlic. It can be rough chopped like this because we're going to puree the sauce at the end. So no need to take your time and effort to make it nice and small and pretty. Just a nice rough chop, stir that in, and let this cook maybe 2 minutes. You'll want to smell it, it'll become fragrant, and then you want it to become a little bit tender. Everything's starting to turn a little bit golden brown, so perfect time to add our red wine. So in the saute process, it's nice to get this browning on the bottom of the pan and on your ingredients. And we want to lift that browning up off the bottom of the pan and incorporate it into our sauce. And so we do that by deglazing, adding some sort of liquid to the bottom of the pan and scraping to remove all of those brown bits. Our wine does that for us. Scraping all the brown bits off the bottom of the pan. We want the wine to reduce by half. What that does is it lets the alcohol boil off, and then it concentrates the flavors of the wine so we get a nice acidity and we get some of the fruit without a lot of the alcohol. Now that it's been reduced, let's go ahead and add our cherries with the liquid. And next, the ketchup and tomato paste. And we just want to stir in that tomato paste. Make sure you mash it down so that it gets incorporated. Then we're going to add the brown sugar. And in this little cup here, we have red wine vinegar, we have Worcestershire, we have some molasses. So we'll let this come to a simmer. While that does, we're going to prepare a spice sachet for our barbecue sauce. So the spices in our recipe are beautiful star anise, some cinnamon stick, and some bay leaves. And we make a little sachet, which means a little bundle, in a cheesecloth. We wrap it up and tie it with some kitchen twine. This makes, having it in a sachet makes it really easy to pull out before we go to puree the sauce. So you're not fishing through trying to find the cinnamon stick or the bay leaf. And if you tie it with a long end like this, then you can go and put it in the pot, and I tie it to the handle, and you never lose it. And it just floats in there and infuses its beautiful flavor into the sauce. So just go ahead and let this simmer 20 to 30 minutes to meld the flavors and to reduce slightly and thicken. The sauce is reduced nicely, the flavors have blended. We're going to take it off the heat, and now we're going to talk about pureeing it. So if you want, you can leave the sauce chunky like this, you know, with the cherries whole. That's fine if you want to do that. But a barbecue sauce is usually thick and, you know, it's slathered on. So generally I puree it. So before we blend, we just take the spice sachet out of the pot and we discard that. And then either ladle the sauce into a blender or put your immersion blender in the bottom of the pot. And so it's nice, this rustic consistency. However, like I said today, we're going to be putting this on goose, which is a little bit fancier. And so if you wanted to have a smoother sauce, a little bit more elegant sauce, you can strain it. And then the sauce looks something like this. And so if you want this consistency here, you can just take the sauce and use a strainer, pour it through the strainer, and use a ladle and push it through the strainer. And then it comes through and you get this beautiful, silky, elegant sauce. Okay, so let's go ahead and taste it. And we'll adjust for salt and pepper here. And then we're also going to adjust for consistency. Flavor-wise, it's delicious and perfect. It's tart and it's barbecue-y. You get that tomato and the Worcestershire and the molasses and everything. I'll put a little bit of pepper. Doesn't need much pepper because of the ginger. The ginger makes it a little bit spicy in the back of your throat. So I like the flavor of this, and I like the consistency of it too. If, however, your sauce is a little bit thin, then you can put it back on the stove and reduce it a little bit more and thicken it up. If it's a little bit thick in this pot, just feel free to put some more red wine in and thin it out to your consistency. While this barbecue sauce is phenomenal on beef, ribs, chicken, we're doing a little bit of a fancier version today with the goose from Grant Family Farms. I sauteed the breasts and they're pretty much cooked. They're about 3/4 of the way there. And I'm going to slather the barbecue sauce on these now that they're almost cooked, and let them finish their cooking process. Whenever we're using barbecue sauces in general, you never want to put the barbecue sauce on the meat before you cook it, because what ends up happening is the sugars in the sauce will just burn in the pan or on the grill. So for best flavor, what you want to do is cook the meat 90% of the way. Then when you have the presentation side up, like we do here, then slather on the barbecue sauce and let it keep cooking the rest of the way. So that way, nothing is burnt, nothing is charred, but there's just delicious flavor. I'm going to take them out of the pan on this plate, tent them with foil, and let them rest for about 10 minutes. Whenever you cook meat and you take it off the heat, you always want to put it on a plate or on a cutting board, tent it with foil, let it rest. That lets the juices redistribute so that when you cut into it, it's nice and moist as opposed to cutting into it and having a flood of juice come out on your cutting board. So just let it rest about 10 minutes and then you can cut it. You can serve it whole, but I like to slice it. I think the presentation is a little bit nicer. And so I just slice at angled, maybe 1/4 inch slices. Once I get it on the plate, I'll brush it again with the barbecue sauce and then serve the barbecue sauce on the side. This sauce is perfect for the freezer. It'll freeze for at least 6 months. You can make tons of it at a time, put it in containers and store it in the freezer. It's also great in the refrigerator, and it should last in your refrigerator for 2 to 3 months. If you'd like more information on how to saute or how to perfectly cook your meats, visit me on my website at kitchencue.com. And I'd also like to give a shout out to Same Cafe, which is a pay-as-you-can restaurant here in Denver. They too are a member of the Grant Family Farms CSA, and they use local organic products in all of their cooking when they can. So please visit them in Denver on Colfax, or you can visit their website at soallmayeat.org. They've opened up their kitchen for us today so that we could come here and cook for you and teach you. So gratitude. La 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 la. I love cherries. I love cherries. Those are the out shots, or what do they call those? The out whatever.